The plot, the agenda by the media has now gone to a place that we need to break down on this Friday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones is here, and this has to do with the coverage of not only the league, the WNBA, but also of one Caitlin Clark. Get in on the conversation. Got to hear from you guys early and often. Comment, as always, at Rich Q on Q. So the Fever get a win last night without Caitlin Clark, and that's really not the story. That's really not the story. As we've been discussing over the last several days, I had an epiphany last night. I'm sitting there and I'm watching these games and I'm flipping around the dial and I'm watching baseball and I'm getting ready after I did an NFL show, mind you, last night. Good stuff with Lloyd Vance. That's on the channel, NFC South, NFC East. And it dawned upon me. It dawned upon me that there's a lot of blame to go around when we start talking about the media, the mainstream media, and how many push certain narratives and agendas. And we see it all the time. We see it all the time. It's not like it changes. It's sporadic. It's consistently consistent, if that makes sense. And I don't watch as much of the talking heads like I used to, because a lot of times you got to take what they're saying for face value, and it's a lot of just nonsense. It really is. A lot of it makes no sense. A lot of it is, we know clickbait driving the ratings. That's not what we do on the show. We want to have intelligent, engaging, compelling conversations, and we know that this is a hot topic, and we enjoy going the back and forth, and we enjoy when people chime in. And you guys are fantastic. So I'm going to throw it out to you right now. The media, especially ESPN, when you look at some of their coverage when it has to do with the WNBA and Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, somebody tell me if I'm off base here. Somebody tell me if I'm paranoid. Somebody tells me if I need to get, put up on the sofa. And you guys maybe need to have a big boy conversation with me. But why the hell in the world do they constantly give Stephanie White a free pass, coach of the Indiana Fever? I'm not talking about the X's and O's. I'm not talking about the X's and O's. I'm not talking about how she handles substitutions, the coaching, because we can get into all that. I'm talking about the relationship with Caitlin Clark, and it's never pushed. It's never on the topic of conversation, screwing the kid, sabotaging the kid. It never is. It never is. Playing favorites, placating to other players, really doing this kid a disservice. It seems as though we have gotten it lost in the sauce with the narrative, the plot, the agenda, and ESPN's to fault. And I know a lot of the media is to fault. It really is. And here's your perfect example. They stick a jackass clown on there because probably somebody had off in David Dennis Jr., because I saw the clip going viral, talking about, making compelling arguments that Caitlin Clark, is, and ultimately not really a good player. I mean, let's just be honest. Defending the treatment of Caitlin Clark, saying she isn't even a top 4 guard in the WNBA. Now, here's the thing. You are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to your opinion. But with all that being said, if you are going to make a statement like that, at least do your friggin' due diligence and your research and back it up. And that's the problem I have. And no one ever pushes anyone. No one ever pushes someone on set. He just won't do it. And that's the problem, because what happens is you get sucked into these shows. So if it's 95% anti, you walk away believing that's how it should be. And then you have conversations with your friends and your buddies. They do the same crap and garbage when they do list of the NFL. And they sit there and they talk about overrated, underrated, overexposed, underexposed, not good quarterback. Lamar Jackson's not a scrambling quarterback. I'm sorry, he is a scrambling quarterback. Oh, wait, he's a pocket passer. No, he's not a pocket passer. Joe Burrow's never going to win. They build around this guy every year. What's the narrative with Jared Goff? Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl, but he still sucks. He's not a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback. And all they do is cram it down your throat because we are not strong enough to have our own thought and opinion and control it. And then what happens? You start to play the fantasy football, and then you text your buddies, I'm drafting Jalen Hurts. Oh, well, the talking head said he sucks, so you don't draft him. It's like sheep. We start to follow along. So you listen, you watch how some of these shows are. And you listen to narratives that they're pushing, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And it needs to be talked about. It's absolutely dangerous watching this. Now, they got a nice win last night, the Fever. Obviously, without Caitlin Clark. And you had some players that did a nice job producing last night. Mitchell played well. She had a big game. You had some big free throws down the stretch, Cunningham. And that was a nice win. So it's like you can't figure this team out. You lose to LA, you come back, and you take care of a Phoenix team that you should beat by all accounts. You should. And it's not about, again, last night, the subs, the X's and O's, who's hurt, who's not, who's resting, because we know at this point it's all a crock. We know at this point it's all a crock. Like, believe what you want to believe when it comes to this. But the problem is when you have some of these media members, they are not calling out who they need to call out. They are not taking shots at the people they need to take shots at. And I'm starting to really start to worry now the mental state of one Caitlin Clark, which you guys might sit there and say, oh, I think you're being outrageous. I think you're being paranoid. I think you're exaggerating. No, I'm not. It's because of the narratives, the agendas that are pushed constantly, constantly, constantly. It makes no sense. And it's dangerous. You can't sit there and tell me X, Y, and Z. Back it the frig up. But there's never pushback. There is never pushback. And again, you want to talk about her X's and O's. She was brought in to be a defensive coach. She stinks. This team gives up 100 points constantly. They're not a good basketball team. They're just not. But how about a little bit of the pushback? How come they don't really criticize her? How come they don't really go after her? And I've got some reasons why. And I think I know why. And I'm pretty confident I know why. And it's not even about the body of work. It starts to dive into, we don't want to disrupt or upset the apple cart. They don't want to do that. They want to placate. They want to placate. That is a major, major, major problem. So we're losing the plot. When you talk about Caitlin Clark and the way she's covered and the Indiana Fever and the WNBA, which is totally lost right now. Totally lost. You can flip on a channel and they can talk about, she's got to be silent. When it's a choice. Do you know at her age, the spotlight and the questions that are being asked of her and, just often, just constantly. That's why she has to come out and basically say, stop using her name to force agendas. And I agree. Formulate your friggin' own. Control your own thoughts. But be fair. Be balanced about it. And that's the problem. The shit that I hear, the crap that I hear with some of these talking heads, it's embarrassing. You got this jackass the other day who's saying it to say it. He's just saying it to say it. But nobody pushed him and said, back it up with stats. Back it up with facts. And you can't do it. You can't do it. That's the problem. That's the problem I have. Someone's got to have the stones. And like I said, guys like me, we've been talking on the air. We've been on the radio for years. We do the YouTube channel. We do content. We're on Odyssey. We're on a couple different platforms here and there. SR 1029 FM, The Game, right? So we've got somewhat of a reach, but not like the rat ship, not like the mothership, not like what these anchors and these talking heads have when you flip on the tube. Because the reach is phenomenal. The stretch is phenomenal. And what they can do is they can have you start watching something and tune in, and within 30 seconds, all of a sudden, flip the script, and now you're thinking something else. I'm not going to sit there and say that constitutes a weak-minded person. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the narrative on how we're covering this and looking at this, it's got to change. It's got to change. It has to. But no one ever wants to step up and say that. There should be immediate pushback when you make asinine comments. You guys have free reign to comment in the show. You can push back to me and I can push back to you, and we do it in a very respectful fashion. We do. I say this all the time on the show. As long as you don't, threaten anyone, bring in hate, anything that would deem, like I said, just hate filled. We don't tolerate that, but you're entitled to have your opinion. I can push back. I can say something on the air. You guys can push back to me. We allow the comments. That's the uniqueness of what I'm trying to do. I want to engage you guys, and you guys engage me back. And you got me thinking yesterday. You guys got me thinking yesterday. After the show, I went back and I listened to it, and I went through all the comments. And I try to respond to everyone all the time because you guys are giving me your time. And I value that. But I'm not going to spew you BS just to spew BS. I'm not going to give you that crap. I'm not. Think on your own. Have your own opinion. Have your own opinion. Stick with it. You're allowed to change it. But if we're going to argue it, if we're going to debate it, can you at least back it up a little bit? That's the issue I have. You want to throw numbers at me. The narrative, the agenda, the plot is getting lost. She's the only one in the freaking league that constantly gets hammered with certain questions. And I understand players get softer, broader questions here and there, but no one really seems to give a crap when it's fired off at Clark. And to some extent, Sophia Cunningham. Like, imagine if you go to their socials and probably see the hate spewed comments. It's utterly ridiculous. The media is never going to let that happen. The hate, the nonsense, they basically back the village of idiots and the jackasses. And David Dennis Jr. is one of them. Let me go on TV. Let me ignite this massive sports debate by stating on First Take that Clark is not a top 4 guard in the WNBA. Come on, man. You are the problem. Because you can make a strong argument. All right, make the argument. Make the argument. So the flock of sheep are going to follow you, and then all of a sudden in the text thread, they're going to sit there and say, well, X, Y, and Z. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like what I'm saying, but at least I'm trying to speak the truth. There's two sides to every story. There's two sides to the coin. And the mainstream media, they are eating it up because it benefits them. And a lot of us are getting sucked in for the ride, man. And it's a shame because at the end of the day, you know what's going to happen? You talk about the mental state of a young person, a young player, a young woman. And I worry about it. I really do. I worry about it because of everything that is being forced fed. Think about this. You watch certain networks on TV. You look over here and they will come out. If you listen to CNN, they will sit there and they will hammer the POTUS. They will hammer the POTUS, right? He is the Antichrist. He is the devil. And then you flip on Fox. What happens? Swing all the way this way. This guy is the best thing since sliced bread. He is, Jesus Christ reincarnated. It's where you hang your hat. Try to be fair. Try to be right in the middle of it, right? And the problem is we're not. And maybe I'm part of the problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm part of the problem. I try to be very fair with my takes. I really do. I try to be very fair, and I try to back it up with stats, and I try to back it up with analysis and opinions, and I try to formulate my own opinion, my own thought. But if you come back at me and you want to challenge it, let's discuss it. We're getting to the point right now where the narrative, it's overrun by agendas, and now it's totally changed. It's totally changed. It's gone into a different direction, okay? And I want to hear from you guys because that's what we do. I want to hear from you. Get engaged. You guys were phenomenal. We had over 170 comments yesterday. Again, over 170-something comments. And I'm going to get to them in a moment because we get them fast and furious. The other thing that really bothered me that, again, I don't believe a lot of people are talking about is the narrative with the Congress. I mean, if you go back and watch the clip, and I don't know what show it was, we know that Congress is trying to get in to the fold and the mix, and they're going after the WNBA. And I mean, they're wasting their time with that, to be honest. Hey, that's great. You're trying to back a player, but let's focus on the bigger picture, right? So you derive the letter. You type it up. Here we go. You haven't protected Caitlin Clark, right? And pretty much you're looking at some things that are happening off the court that are major issues. The hate, the visceral, the vile nonsense. Look, I never condone the bigoted, racist, jackass, the homophobic people. Man, get the hell out of here with that crap. Like I say this all the time. And I feel like for the new audience, I always have to preface it by saying, I don't care black, white, yellow, green, blue. I don't care where you lay your head on the pillow at night. Man, if you can play, you can play. I'm a fan. And I'm a fan. So the clip is, and I think, Candace Parker, who's come out, talking about, the voting process. I think it was a Swin Cash, maybe another player. I'm not sure. But if you go back and you watch the clip, you start talking about what's the focus here. It's the narrative, Congress, the WNBA, but somehow the conversation shifts. It shifts away from Caitlin Clark. It shifts away from the problem at hand, and then it goes to another player that is maybe being harassed online. But yet, there's no outrage when you have a Caitlin Clark getting threatened or stalked. I mean, imagine you do like a social media, like an Instagram dump of some of these comments, because I check them out. I mean, it's what I do, part of my research, even when I go on Reddit and or IG. I mean, it's disgusting. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to turn a blind eye to it. Why? Because it doesn't fit our narrative. It doesn't fit the plot. It doesn't fit what we're trying to spew. And that's a major issue. That is a big time problem we have in this world, in society alone. Like, you're constantly pivoting, changing the subject. It's like, hey man, we're trying to have a conversation. We're trying to have a grown-up conversation. I'm throwing something at you. And then all of a sudden you sit there and say, hey, I think it's going to rain today. Come on. Jody chimes in, Q, do you really think those threats by Thomas are valid? I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, were they made public? Is it there? Is there a record? I don't know. And I'm not going to suggest. See, the thing with me is, we know people suck. We know. There's jerks in the world. People suck. I do tend or like to try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes, yes, stuff is conjured up. People do cry wolf. They want attention. They want to deflect, right? They want to deflect. We know that, and you know that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you someone's making something up or not. All I'm saying is, if you go and you throw something out there, you better be damn well ready to back it up. And the problem is, a lot of these talking heads, they are the issue, because they have such a mass audience and they have such a reach that you tune in, you flip off, and you start to believe exactly what they're saying. And look, I'm going to tell you in a few why I believe it's being ignored. I want to open it up, get in on the conversation. If you guys are first time to the channel, I greatly appreciate it. Rich Quinones here on Q. We're powered by our good friends over Fresh Roasted Coffee. You can get me pretty much at social media, at Rich Q on X and IG, TikTok, at Rich Q on the mic. As I always say, the best thing you guys are doing is commenting and engaging. And if you like the comment, subscribe. I like this handle. Total Strange Talks. That's not bad handle. I like that. They don't watch the games or cover the W good enough to know what's really going on. They just make crazy statements for clicks. There's something to be said about that. I watch a lot of sports. I have to. It's part of what I do. And we spread out a lot of content on the channel because we want momentum going into college football and the NFL, because that's where we make our bread and butter. But you guys, if you're new and if you don't know too much about my background, I love basketball. I call games stateside, overseas, and I've been doing this for a minute. So I watch a lot of hoops, and I watch a lot of the WNBA because I do think there's some good talent in the WNBA, and I like the storylines. I don't like the product at this moment, and I certainly don't like the way the game's officiated. I don't. I think it's piss poor. Joey B in CLQ in the morning. This is like Regis and Kathy live back in the day. It is Joey B. And you know what, Joey? I did 3 hours yesterday. Okay, we did we did close to 3 hours in the AM. Then we had to do other recorded stuff. Then we turned around and we banged out a little NFC East, a little NFC South. And if you notice, no V-neck, no collar today on a Friday. It's a Fraud Friday edition of On Cue. That's another thing. We got to fire up. You know, it's kind of a new segment on a Friday. We always go what the frig Friday, but since it's a Fraud Friday, I got to hear from you guys. We need nominees for the biggest friggin' frauds this week in sports. But Joey, always appreciate it, brother. I'm sure you're sitting there maybe a little smoking and joking in Denver. Oh, my goodness. WNBA on the brink of losing CC to international leagues. WNBA self-sabotaging their own product. Very strange. WNBA running themselves out of business like Enron. What a horrendously run business, period. They are slowly turning off fans. They are. They really are if you think about it. Because the product, I want to watch a good product. And what I've also noticed with the league, and I see a lot of this overseas. You know, overseas is a little different animal. Whether it's male or female, the ball rarely touches the ground. And they're fundamentally sound. We're not as fundamentally sound in the States. We're not as fundamentally sound in the WNBA. I don't know how many friggin' layups were missed. I watch every game. I feel like there's 15 like easy bunnies, easy buckets that are missed or bad turnovers all the time. Last night was no exception to the rule. It's funny though because you talk about the officiating. Did you see last night? Bonner wasn't really touched. Started to cry, missed a layup. You know, got right into the referee's face and started to do the clap. Right? You know, a little bit of clap. You know, the demonstrative, the theatrics, right? And then, you know, no tech. And you basically see the referee, you know, stop, right? I mean, this is a weak-ass league that we're dealing with, man. Take control. Don't let the inmates run the asylum, but they're never going to do it. It's one of the reasons Caitlin Clark said you need full-time refs. You got to pay them. The hypocrisy is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. In my opinion, CC isn't a top 4 guard in the league. She's inefficient, turns the ball over, doesn't guard anyone. What do you think? Well, the turnovers, I think that's a problem. I think the fouls are an issue at times, but I also think she picks up a lot of early fouls because of the way they guard and defend her. But I still think she's a great facilitator, and she's definitely a top guard in the league. And if you watch, here's the issue that I'm really seeing. They hired Stephanie White to coach her system. Clark doesn't fit that system. It just doesn't. And you certainly can't have her on the floor with little spurts. 2 minutes. I mean, go look at the injury report. It's a crock. You knew exactly what she did. Right? I mean, there were some DMPs, but White is out there. You got no, you had that the other day. I'm sorry. But if you look, then all of a sudden she's turning around. I think Grace, Adantis, you know, you start to roll these guys out, right? Kind of like a tight rotation. Tight rotation. But she's not doing that with Clark, especially against the Spark. So to me, whether we sit there and say the sabotage, the malpractice, piss poor coaching, this is where the talking heads, to go back to where I started, need to push back. You know why they're not going to do it? Because of her track record. And oh, by the way, because of what transpires outside the court. She's in a relationship with Lisa Salters. Lisa Salters is a respected journalist on ESPN. You really think they're going to rip Stephanie White? They're not. And this has nothing to do with, again, the fact that she's in a relationship, but it ultimately does. I don't care, again, who she's in a relationship with. She's been in a relationship with Salters for years. But they're not going to push back on the network and really take shots at her. But I guarantee you, if this was a male coach, is this guy still have a job today? Like, honestly, in any other sport, he's fired by now. He's absolutely gone. He's fired. It's not even up for discussion. But nobody wants to get in that. Nobody wants to take those shots. Nobody ever, 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 ever. It's ridiculous. The coaching, she's horrible. She is definitely complicit. She's a horrible head coach. She was a horrible coach in college, but she gets the pass. Why? Because she won a championship in Purdue. She was a great player. She played in the WNBA, had a cup of coffee for several years. She was brought on to be a defensive coach. But the media and the narrative, yeah, you might talk about the stats, but you're not getting into the meat and potatoes. You're not getting in the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes is this. How the hell can a player succeed in that system the way she's being coached? Because if this is the NFL, I can tell you right now, talking heads are going off on these coaches. If this is the NBA, I can tell you right now, talking heads, solitary Stephen A., he's going off. These guys are going off. You know, they're going off on these coaches, but yet she's getting a free pass. And ESPN's the culprit. And to answer, by the way, to answer your other question, Young's a great guard. My girl Sabrina, New York, is a great guard. Obviously, if you look at, you know, the standout guards, Gray's unbelievable. You know, Buckets is a great guard. Clark is a great guard. I just think she's not being used properly. She's not being used the right way. And look, for those that were killing me the other day, when you have an all-time great Candace Parker come out and talk about 11th best, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Go to therapy, right? That kind of tells you something. But you can't sit there and rip her for her play on the floor and say, well, you can make a stronger, make the argument. So we get that 30-second clip that's posted on social and we run with it. That's why when I post, if you ever go to my channel, which you guys are on now, which I greatly appreciate, if you ever check out what I post on my channel, I try to answer every comment. And I try to throw questions out there to engage you, or I try to put the full link so you just you get more context to what I'm trying to say. You just don't sit there and kind of encapsulate, 2 minutes, 3 minutes on a short or TikTok. Now, I can't control if someone takes that and they don't go to the full video to hear the full response or the rant or the breakdown or the analysis, but I give you that option. So, again, these talking heads, man, expand on it. Branch out a little bit. Don't be so narrow-minded. Hell, do a little friggin' research. You're working for the rat ship, the mothership. You got 1,000 interns all over the place. Back it up. I'm not going to sit here and say you got to be old school like Kornheiser with your notepad, which, by the way, I still use. Back it up. David chimes in. Good to hear from you, brother. Some Republicans in Congress are starting to investigate the Caitlin Clark situation in the WNBA. I just brought it up. And the problem was when you flip on the tube the other day and they start to talk about the letter that Congress wrote to the WNBA, the conversation switched. It wasn't on the issue at hand. It wasn't on Caitlin Clark. It went to Thomas. That's a problem. So now all of a sudden we're driving down the boulevard. We got no traffic ahead, and you sit there, front seat driver, and you tell me, do me a favor, make a right here, and then we hit traffic. What the hell is the point of that? Let's keep going straight. Let's keep staying the course. Let's keep going down the path. They don't want to do that. Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit their agenda. That is a dangerous, dangerous problem. A dangerous problem that we have. I watched some of the Mercury versus Fever game last night. It's pretty clear that the refs are afraid and intimidated by Thomas. It could well be. I think the refs are gutless in this league. I do. I really do. You start calling out the awful coaching. I have been. I have. Brian chimes in. Bubble Boy. Great episode of Seinfeld, by the way. We talking about the head coach? She is in a bubble. She's clueless. It's, again, forget about the malpractice because she's a horrible head coach. It's the narrative. The narrative is always friggin' hijacked. It's always, kicked to the curb. It's always pissed on. I had so many people comment in the last couple of days, and look, I give you the opportunity, but then you expose yourself for who you really are. No one's saying you got to think she's a great player. I'm not saying that. You don't have to like her. For whatever reason, some people just don't like Caitlin Clark. They look at her, she doesn't fit the mold. She goes against the grain. It's a contrarian view. You don't like her. Whatever the hell it is, the way she looks, the way she wears her hair, whatever it is, her game, you don't like her. But as I mentioned, her game speaks for itself. And it's very hard to succeed in a system that won't allow you to succeed. That's all. It just won't. It just won't. And the narrative last night, you saw Cunningham get animated because she is a feisty friggin' player, but somehow today, you know what's going to happen. We're going to encapsulate that. Here we go. Forget about ball don't lie. And all of a sudden, someone's going to sit there on the talking heads or the mothership and use the word privilege. And you know what that really means? That's another thing that bugs the hell out of me. I've heard a lot of talking heads throw that term around. And it's, you throw it around, you're very loose when you throw it around. You're very careless when you throw it around. Like when someone sits there and say, well, they're privileged. What does that mean? What does that mean? You're going to sit there and say, as soon as they came out of the womb, in the womb, they were spoon-fed? Why? Because of their upbringing? You think they didn't have to work hard? Right? Privileged, entitled. And then the other line of it is, oh man, that's thug ball, that's street ball. What does that mean? What does that mean? They wanted freebies in life? They wanted a handout, not a hand up? I mean, what, like, people, you get to a point where even though the elephant in the room, we know the elephant in the room, we know the reality of it, there are some people that don't like certain players because of how they look, how they talk, and how they act. Hey, man, I get it. I don't like it. It's not how I am. It's not what I believe. And there are certain terms that sometimes are tossed around that I think that are unfair. Like, to me, I look at that foul by Thomas. That wasn't a basketball foul. That was a punk foul. Now, white, black, yellow, green, I say the same crap. You know, Clark, sometimes she's got her little antics on the floor. And sometimes it's like, just play ball, Caitlin. I say the same thing in the NFL. I don't care where you came from. I don't care your path. If you play, you play. But if you do something foolish, you're going to get called out. You're going to get called out. But the way these terms are tossed around by ESPN, it's not journalism. It's not reporting. It's fodder. It's clicks. It's get the rage bait. And then the problem is we get sucked into that. We get sucked into that. And I'm not going to tell you that there's a responsibility, but I do believe if you're given a platform and you're given a venue and you have a microphone and you're talking and you have an audience and you're engaging, at least speak the truth. And if your opinion doesn't jive with theirs, then have a debate about it. Go back and forth. Like I said this the other day. Yeah, everyone was like, man, Q, you're really getting animated and passionate. I do. And sometimes my voice goes to a different tone. I don't want to be the loudest because the loudest in the room is not always right. Sometimes it's the one that's the most quiet, that has the best viewpoint, the best opinion. I try to take a step back. We know why the league and these players and these veterans don't like her. It's as clear as day. We don't even need to spell it out anymore. But how about the media do a better job of covering this? How about the mainstream do a better job? I don't hear a lot of people backing or protecting her. I don't. I really don't. And it's alarming because it starts to F with a player, a young person's mental state. It really does. It really does. And people never want to have that conversation. You never want to go down that rabbit hole. How many times over the last several years has mental illness been thrown and lumped up when we talk about sports? Somebody gets pinched for PEDs. I was going for a rough time. And, now my mental state. To me, I think that's just lazy. That's lazy. You got pinched with steroids or PEDs because you wanted a friggin' shortcut. Okay? Mitchell Robinson talked about, and we knew something happened. when he hurt his hand in the NBA Finals, almost sabotaged the NBA Finals for the Knicks. But we knew something had to happen. The speculation was he punched a wall. He got in a fight. And what happened? Someone got in a car accident and he got pissed off and hit his fist. But then he turned around and he said, what? I have to work through certain things. Right? I have to work through certain things. Mental stuff, right? Mental stuff. And, you know, you can only use it as a crutch for certain things. Like if there's an upsetting moment in your life and there's despair and, you know, you feel lost and, you know, it triggers you, then yeah, that's a struggle, man. That's a mental health issue. And, you know, because you throw a fist, you throw your hands, you have an outrage, you have a violent outburst, I think it's tied. I do. I think it's tied together. But if I get pinched for PEDs, I'm not going to sit here and use that as a crutch. I'm not. Point is, this kid is young. And this narrative that she needs to speak up about what? Speak up on what? What does she need to speak up? She already is. I think she's saying enough. I think she's being bombarded with questions left and right, and it's not good enough. Because the narrative keeps pushing certain things, and she's got to answer to it. Like, enough is enough. Back off. Lay off. Thomas has been playing dirty. CC isn't her first victim. She got Praying Angel. Pretty good, too. They need to keep close eyes on her. The league itself, it's a physical league. The league itself, it's a physical league. And sometimes it's not the best brand of basketball. It's not. It looks like a watered down product. It looks like a watered down product. It really does. And it's not fun to watch. It really isn't. But the league can do better. And who else can do better? The media. The media. Because they control a lot. And the reason they are not going after Stephanie White, I believe it's because her relationship with Lisa Salters and the fact that, well, she played in the WNBA. She was a great standout player. I mean, has anyone, a talking head, brought up her record at Vanderbilt? Has anyone talked about the toxic environment and culture she created at Vanderbilt? No one has. No one has, except former players. No one has. Of substance, meaning they got a microphone and a reach. And a big time reach. They just don't want to do it. And I'm not suggesting, you know, well, we don't want to say, you don't want to say anything because you don't want to rub your colleagues the wrong way. Does anyone else find a problem with that? When they can do it with anyone else, they do it all the time. They do it all the time. Look at the way they handled the Diana Rossini situation on my grade ball. That was an absolute disgrace. It was a joke. I mean, you got to listen to Dan Lebitard, who, oh, by the way, was prominent with ESPN and radio for years, and then obviously has his own show. And I used to really like Dan's show and respect Dan, but he's kind of goes so far off with the woke nonsense and the crap, you feel uncomfortable talking about it. Your whole shtick, your whole basis of your career has been what? Based on having uncomfortable conversations on the air. And because your friend, a contemporary, was cheating on her husband, making him look like a friggin' fool with a prominent NFL coach, and then basically during pillow talk was able to get leaked information and then spew it out there for her own profitability and gain. She was making a shit ton of money with the Athletic. That's an uncomfortable conversation? Dude, you're a friggin' hypocrite. What a contradiction you are. You base your whole shtick on having uncomfortable conversations, but you don't want to touch that. Like, come on, man. Sell that shit somewhere else. Sell that somewhere else. Enough with the agendas. It's just old. It's old. Have the balls, man. Have the balls. That's why I'm so happy that I'm not on terrestrial radio anymore, because everything was magnified. It was under a microscope. I mean, my God, the last thing you want is to come on the air and someone tell you what to say. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal with that at all. Brenda chimes in, Caitlin Clark is a bust. She is soft. Her coach, Stephanie White, already knew Clark is a loser. All right. I mean, that's a strong take. That is a strong take. I wholeheartedly disagree. Explain to me how she's a bust. See, this is where I get a little juiced. I get a little giddy, as we like to say. Explain to me, how is she a bust when I'm just going to go over a couple things for those that need to be educated. We like to do that. We like to inform. We like to engage. We like to entertain. And we like to educate. A lot of E's and I's in there, right? She has rewritten the record books. Caitlin Clark has rewritten the record books. Period. You're talking Rookie of the Year, all-time single season assist record 337, multiple triple doubles as a rookie, single game assist record 19, averaging 19 and 8. What's she averaging? 20 and 7 and 4 this year, setting the NBA rookie season record with the points, the threes, first rookie in league history, triple doubles. She did that multiple times in 2024. All-star voting, first 2 seasons, longest streak in WNBA history, consecutive games with 20 points and 5. Record. And oh, by the way, the money that she's made the WNBA, how all these franchises and the league's value has gone up, i.e. the CC effect, the Caitlin Clark effect. So you, as much as I appreciate you chiming in, you're way off base. You can't, how's that a bust? Imagine if the coach didn't have her head up her ass and built the offense around her and gave her the green light. She would break every record, and the WNBA would be shit out of luck, because that's not what they want. They don't want her to break any records anymore. They don't, and it's clear as day. Like, come on, man, stop. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Stop. You sound foolish. You sound absolutely foolish. You really do. Mainstream media has an agenda. You have the freedom to tell the truth. We try. I agree that White definitely isn't the best coach for CC. I think they would both benefit from splitting up. I posted this, and I don't believe the GM. I don't believe Cox is going to fire Stephanie White. I don't. I really don't. And if the owner, who, by the way, is, I think, 91, Herb Simon, who's, he's like a real estate tycoon. I just don't see it. I mean, he's probably, I don't know. You're not going to get this guy in front of a mic. But if the owner and the GM, if the owner's like, hey, I'm at the point, do what you need to do as long as we have a winning product, the GM's not going to do it. She's not. You got to bring in a coach. If you really want to build around Caitlin Clark, it's pretty clear you have to bring in a coach that will work, placate the offense to her. We know right now it's not her team anymore. It's not. It's Mitchell's team. We talked about it at great length. And the media, again, they'll sit there, and Kelsey Mitchell, she's a hell of a player. She's a hell of a player. She had 27, 29. I think she had 29 last night. Hell of a player. Efficient from the floor. It's her team right now. And that's because the coach wants it that way. That's because the coach is coaching it that way. Like, we can keep diving into the substitutions, the minutes, the restrictions, the allocate. It doesn't matter. My whole gripe the other day was you shouldn't have allowed her to play 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Her longest stretch, 3 minutes on the floor, 9 points, and everyone's criticizing her. Oh, here we go. Well, they won last night without. Yeah, well, you knew she was going to rest. Shouldn't have played her. But now it's rest, not the back. That's the problem I have. Abby chimes in, loving the show, Q. Excellent job by Sophie late in the clutch on the free throws. Appreciate that, Abby. It was a good game. But she doesn't want, the guard play, it's interesting. We always look at flashy guards that can break down defenses, they can penetrate, they can kick, they can go right to the bucket, right? And sometimes maybe you don't want that type of tempo, right? Maybe you don't want that tempo. Maybe you don't want someone to have like the Maravich or the Bird passes. I don't know. And you want to slow it down. Well, if you run that type of offense, then obviously you got to clean up the defense, no doubt, especially in transition. If you're not getting these easy layups or these transitional buckets, you got to get your asses back on defense. Right now, this team defensively, they have multiple lapses. They're not a good defensive team. They cannot defend in the paint. You're talking about, issues with the rim protection and the rebounding that we documented and went over and over ad nauseum the other day. But it goes back to what I was saying. It's what's being pushed by the media. That's all. It's what's being pushed. We're talking about Congress, the WNBA, protecting Caitlin Clark. Talk about it. Don't start to stray and talk about Thompson. Stick to the script. You want to pivot after you make your conversation and your points, do it. Don't sit there and tell me she's the 11th best guard. I can make a case for her being the 11th best guard in the league, and then all of a sudden silence, crickets. Okay, tell me. Don't tell me she's soft, she's a bust, she can't play, when the numbers, the records, the accolades speak for themselves. The problem is people just don't like this girl, and they hate the fact, the value, the monetary value, what she brings to the table, the worth. You can't ignore it. You just can't ignore it. And the problem is you got some of these idiot jackass clowns who are pushing X, Y, and Z when we know the truth is A, B, and C. And we need to do a better job of not buying in. We need to do a better job of formulating our own opinion. Look, you can keep me on, you can turn me off, you can check me out later. You follow, for those that have followed me for years on the radio, I get very demonstrative. I have an opinion. And we like to talk about things that others would consider taboo, don't touch, don't talk about it, uncomfortable. Let's break it down, let's talk about it, let's have a conversation, let's engage and have a little fun doing it and think. When the show ends, I want you to say, hey man, he made some good points. That was entertaining. He made me think a little bit. We're not going to put something out there to put something out there. A lot of times you're going to see that right now, especially social media. You can go and you can check out other channels, and I think what makes mine a little more unique and interesting is the engagement. We're reading comments off. We're going back and forth, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you, oh, by the way, breaking news, Stephanie White was just fired. Oh, no, just saying it for clicks and eyeballs. I'm not going to push the crowd. When you sit there and make certain statements that are outlandish, you got to back them up. You got to back them up. And the beauty of you guys that tune in, I like the fact that you're passionate and it's a hot topic, but you also will push back a little bit. And I like that within reason. I like that. I enjoy it. There's that back and forth that we do on the air. And I did it for years on the radio. Evelina chimes in. Everyone is watching women's basketball and they're all intrigued. They all have their favorites. Favorites is one thing. 100%. Favorites is one thing. You're allowed to have a favorite. Of course. But, I'm not going to sit here and if someone was telling me, well, Angel Reese is better than Caitlin Clark, I would just laugh and just mock them and call their hoops IQ goofy. Because Angel Reese, is a decent rebounder here and there, but she's not a very good player. A lot of turnovers, a lot of missed bunnies, a lot of blocks from behind. But I'll say this, I like the swag. I like these players to have a little edge to them. I do. I don't have a problem with that. You need a little edge. You need a little cockiness. You need a little bravado to be successful. You don't get to this point if you don't have those things. So to me, I don't mind any of that. That doesn't make me look at you differently as a player, man. The barking, the chirping, have at it. Play within. There's got to be a respectful element to this game. And the networks, the highlights, the talking heads, It's not even X's and O's anymore. Do you notice that? It's clickbait. It's not X's and O's. It's really not. The highlight is a made layup or shot, and I mean, it's just that's your highlight reel. But I go back to where I started. If this is any other sport, and the coach was this incompetent, they would have been fired by now. They would have flat out been fired by now. You know it, and I know it. And I just believe they don't want to upset the apple cart. They know her ties to ESPN. They understand her background. No one will sit there and say, well, I don't want to have this conversation about her minutes restriction. Because here's the other problem with terrestrial radio now, especially ESPN. It's all scripted. It's all formatted. It's all, let me ask that question. Let me ask you this. It's not a back and forth. It's not a conversation or debate. It's list. Every effing thing is list. That to me is lazy. That's not entertaining. That's not engaging. How many years, especially in my backyard, when I'm covering the NFC East and we're talking NFL, the conversation was McNabb's better than Romo. Now it's Hurts better than Prescott. List. Top 5, top 6, top 10. And I bring up the 11th guard comment, and you guys chimed in and said, well, maybe she's top 3, 4, 5. We don't agree. It subjective, yes. But back it up. I can make a compelling case of why so-and-so isn't in the NFL Hall of Fame. I can make a compelling case why this pitcher is not clutch. I said the same thing about Kershaw for years. All-time great pitcher. Couldn't do shit, diddly, in the postseason. And then he proved me wrong, and I had to change my tune. And his numbers and his record and his body of work and his track record with the Dodgers' success backed it up. But nobody ever wants to push back. Nobody has sat there yet and said, what's with the rotation, Joe? It's obviously there's a personal beef going on. There's a gripe going on. Something's got to be done. Do you trade the player? Do you fire the head coach? Where's the GM? No one's talking about it. We are. Some are. But I'm talking about the prominent, like the rat ship. I'm talking about like an ESPN that has all the eyeballs. That pushes what they want to push, how they want to push it, when they want to push it. That's the issue I've had. That's when I started to show off. And that's why I asked you guys, am I off base? It's not even about, is she a great player, good player, a transcendent player, a legit player, an all-time great player, the face of the franchise. We can have that conversation as well. Because if you're really being sincere, if you're really being honest, when you talk about the conversation, it's not always about stats too. It's what else are you bringing to the table? The markability, the branding, the eyeballs, the merchandise, the awareness, the increased CBA, increased salaries, the collective bargaining agreement, the broadcast rights. You cannot put a value on that. So that's something that can't be debated or denied. You want to talk about coaching styles, playing styles, that's fine. You want to talk about does it fit? If it's not a fit, it's clear the way she coaches, it's not a fit for Caitlin Clark. So if that's the case already, trade her. Trade her. Let her go succeed somewhere else and run the point and the green light and get up and down the floor and average 20 and 10 and 6. And here we go. Win games. And you guys are going to love that style of play. I feel bad for the Fever fan because you're going to lose her. You get value back, no doubt. You're going to lose some eyeballs, no doubt. But again, if that's the best thing you need for the sport right now, if that's the best thing that's going to be best for her, then do it. But they won't. It's almost like freer. Mitchell, the way they run the offense, if you follow basketball, it's meant for her to what? Score the ball. Put the ball on the floor. Get in position. Others create. She does what she does best. That's Steffi White's system. That's Stephanie White's Indiana Fever friggin' system. There's no denying it. We're building the offense around KM to score. That's not going to allow Caitlin Clark to have 30, 35, 40. Which is what? It's manipulating her stats. She's not going to break any more records unless she gets the hell out of here. They're not better without her. They're not better without her on the floor. The problem is the way this system is, you can make the argument it's not a good fit. Again, round peg, square hole. It's not a good fit. How many times have we heard in the NFL, system quarterback, system quarterback? You know, Lamar Jackson will never be a pocket passer. All he does is break the pocket. Well, you know what? That's God-given natural ability and instincts when he's taken off on a 3rd and 13 and burning you for 16 yards, and then he goes play action and he throws a 45-yard touchdown. Like, again, build around, build to the strengths. But some coaches don't want to do that. Some teams don't want to do that. Some franchises don't want to do that. Never watched women's basketball until I saw Caitlin Clark. All right. AR is a great defender and rebounder. She's efficient on offense. I would say her and CC are on the same level. They both need plenty of work before leading a team to a championship. Look, the game, they're still green to this extent. No one is sitting here saying, at the end of the day, stick her in the Hall of Fame. She created the sport, right? I still love that handle, Total Strange Talks. And you're right. It's a very astute point you bring up. I mean, look what happened the other night. You know, when you don't have a premier rebounder on the floor, then a team is going to take advantage of it. A team, you're going to get cooked, especially when you're small. And we saw it the other night. How many points in the paint around the rim did the Sparks have not last night, the other night, pardon me. You know, so you lose the rim protector. Now, obviously, LA didn't have one of their best players, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's the chicken or the egg. And I used to have this debate all the time in the NBA. Is there a place for that player? Is there a place for that player in today's NBA? And I'll give you the perfect case study in that. I remember being on the radio and the Sixers drafted Jahlil Okafor. And I remember during draft night, they gave him the jersey and he put it on the floor and we did an event, we did a remote, and I interviewed him. The first thing I said is, what the hell went on with that jersey? And he's like, oh, you know, you're reading into it, blah, blah, blah. Well, it created a stir. But he was drafted, okay? He was drafted with the thought was he was going to be the next great big man. I mean, it's just a fact. And you saw early on in his career, right? Freshman season at Duke, national championship team, 3rd overall pick in 2015. But then you start to make the case, there's not a place for him in the NBA. And he's going to wind up bouncing around because what's his game? What's his game? Is it back to the basket? Is it a two-man game? Is it pick and roll? Is it a roll into the basket? If you look at his size, 6'9", 6'10", does he have a jump shot? Can he finish around the rim? And look at his career. He's bounced around all over. Philly, Brooklyn, New Orleans. I think he went overseas. He came back. He was with the Pace. He's all over the friggin' place. This kid was 6'7" as an 8th grader, and everyone was salivating over him. But there's no place for him in the NBA. Sometimes you got to either try to find a way to make it work with a player or just move him. And at that time, worst case scenario was that he got drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers that had their heads up their asses in 2015, around that time. I mean, we know just bad franchise. You know, you start to go through the element of the tanking and everything. But you really didn't know. He wasn't built for the NBA. And some college players are like that. Some college players, you know, we always hear there's a place for him if he can shoot. Right? Nothing better than a player that comes off the bench, nails the first three. That's friggin', they're brimming with confidence, man. You love it. If he's a spot-up shoot, there's a reason that certain guys that played high level in college hung around the NBA for years and made bank because they were specialists. I look at Caitlin Clark and I understand her game. And her game is predicated, I want to put the ball on the floor. I want to go and I want to attack. I'm a great shooter in space, drop off, swing it, here we go. Coffin corner, great shooter, instincts. The way I look at this offense, they're not building it around her. So she's going to struggle at times. And then what happens? You get the turnovers, and from the turnovers, you get the ticky-tack fouls. Then you get in foul trouble. Then your minutes get less and less and less. White is building the team around Mitchell. It's clear as day. But the media, again, needs to hold her accountable, not the X's and O's. Talking about the inner workings, the relationship, because if it's any other coach in any other sport, they are having the conversation. They are having the Belichick, Brady. All we heard was this. That's all we heard. You know, Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll, right? I can't believe Brian Daboll, they went on the road, they beat Minnesota, they won a playoff game. He loves Daniel Jones now, and then everything went south, right? It went south. They gave him the contract extension, $40 million, 4 years, $160. But all you heard was them talking about the dynamic, the coach-player dynamic on New York radio, on the Fan, on ESPN. You give this guy $160 for going on the road and winning a playoff game against Minnesota. You had no business winning, and here we go. Coach of the year. Look, he's finally come into his own. So they talk about that dynamic. They're not doing it with her. And I laid out my reasons why if you're just tuning in. They don't want to disrupt the apple cart at ESPN. They know, this is what I honestly believe. Because she's been with Lisa Salters for years. They have a family and a relationship. They're placating. They won't go down the rabbit hole. They won't. There is no pushback. None. And it's worse when you have jackasses like that guy Dennis the other day start talking about Caitlin Clark, and I can make an argument in a case. Where's your argument in your case? Like, push back. Hey, by the way, does any of this have to do with the coaching? How about their relationship? How about the fact that she throws shade on Caitlin Clark? How about the outburst on the sideline? How about the minutes restriction? How about she's not letting her create when she's out on the floor and she keeps substituting her? But nobody wants to have those conversations. Nobody. That's the problem I have with the media, especially ESPN. Especially ESPN. Appreciate you, Rich. Everything that you say is exactly how I feel. I appreciate that too, Evan. Thank you. You guys don't have to agree. You just don't have to agree, but I try to be fair. That's all. Appreciate also all the players in the WNBA until they get dirty, and that's what's bringing everybody to focus on what's really going on. The game, it's an ugly watch. It's an ugly watch. My man, Reese from Philly always seems to, liven it up a little bit, right? Never knew how much powerful hatred was. They were willing to destroy themselves to destroy her. Pearl Harbor. Yeah. Listen, I laugh and smile, not making light of it, but your comment, yes. We really have to, you have to really start to have that conversation. And I don't think people are ready for it. I don't believe they're ready to have that conversation. They look at her. She does not fit the mold. Cinder chimes in, Q, I've never tuned into your show. I'm absolutely loving it. It's pretty clear she is actively trying to break her spirit. I said it yesterday, and I got 160-something odd comments of pushback. And it goes back to where I started. If you're just tuning in, Friday edition of On Cue, Rich Quinones here. If you like the content and if it's engaging, thank you. Subscribe. That's the best way you can help me out. Share, keep commenting, keep engaging, whether we agree or not. Let's keep rolling with it. I said that yesterday. That's a dangerous head coach. That's a dangerous person. That is damaging to one's psyche. And that's where I started to show off her mental state. Her mental state, if you come into the league with this type of fanfare, these expectations, and you deliver, I want to keep harping it home. For those that have been following me over the last several weeks, you know where my thought process is on this. And you know I'm trying to come from a genuine place. Some maybe are just tuning in and trying to grab a couple little tidbits. I don't care. Pardon me. I don't care what her race is, her sexual orient. I don't care if she was a black player, if she was an Asian player, an Italian player, a Spanish player, and she comes in with the fanfare and the markability and all the records, and she was being treated like this. I would say the same friggin' stuff. It's a disgrace. And the problem is, I'm looking right at you, members of the media, that are not are not serious, that have zero journalistic integrity, that are dangerous behind one of these, the microphone. And ESPN, you're one of the culprits. Call out the coach. I'm not talking about the substitutions and the X's and O's. Sit there. Somebody have the balls and audacity to say, you know what I really think? This coach is sabotaging her. If that's the case, get her the hell out of here. If this is the NFL, Rex Ryan is going to say the most braggadocious thing. The most, you got to be kidding me thing. Because that's his personality. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. But they won't do that. And I believe it's directly linked to the fact that she's in a relationship with Lisa Salters. You look at her playing career in Purdue. She blew up and was horrible in Vanderbilt. She had success in the WNBA. She already coached in the WNBA. And it was the worst hire the Fever could have made. Because you realized, again, you're trying to nail that square peg in the round hole. And now the player, the face of the WNBA, the face of the Indiana Fever, she's paying the steepest price. She is. She is. She's the one that's going to suffer. And that's not right. That is not right. That is a major, major, major issue. Period. It's just, why? It's just hate. It's hate. You just don't like her because of the way she looks and she can ball? Say it. Come out and say it. You don't like because she's straight? I mean, say it. Somebody, please. I'm saying it. Like, nobody wants to go down the rabbit hole because it turns people off because they're like, oh my God, they get offended. Toughen up, man. Put your big boy pants on. The conversation starts, it's got to start to be, it has to be had. It has to. She is a great player. She is an exceptional talent. And she is being royally screwed, and the media is now lost the plot. They've lost the plot when it comes to their coverage of her. That is disgraceful, and it's disheartening. It is. Clean player. She's a very good example. Nobody plays like her. She's feisty, though. She gets a little feisty, and I think so. Because remember, too, a lot of times the way they play her is physical, so she is going to pick up fouls, as I like to say. She is. But it comes with the territory, right? Pure hate. She even stopped Clark to Boston pick and roll that when she first got. It's going to be the hardest thing to stop. They were going to make history, and she stopped it. Is that James? Appreciate that, James. By the way, let me know where you're chiming in from too, please. Yeah, it's sabotage. It's like I said yesterday. It's like going up to someone, hey, do you want to advertise? No, we don't need any more business. You don't? You don't? Right? Want any more business? She said it. Let me go where she can be herself. The Fever is not home for her. Margaret, how about Margaret? Margaret, it's 12 o'clock in the States. I believe Margaret is in Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's retired, so she's hanging out with us. I think it's 1 o'clock. She should be counting sheep, but she's not, and we appreciate that. What's going to happen when Fever play top sides? What's going to happen is this. So it's going to be very interesting to see when she comes back legit to the lineup, okay? Because this is what bugs the hell out of me. They beat the Mercury last night without Caitlin Clark. And you guys want to sit there and say they're better without her. Yes, Mitchell had 29. Boston had 21. You know, banging out those threes. You're down 10 in the fourth quarter. That was a nice road win. Okay? So, if anything, that's a positive. As a fan, it's like when I'm watching the Knicks and I'm like, man, Brunson went down. Brunson's injured. There's inconsistency, but we still got the win. We got something cooking here. Love-hate relationship. I can't stand you got blown out the other day against LA, and then you come back and you have a nice win on the road against Phoenix. There you go. That's what you want when your franchise star player is, quote, resting. But that also tells you if you follow friggin' sports, it doesn't mean she sucks. It means you got a friggin' bench and you got depth. Come on. Which, oh, by the way, when she comes back, that should even be better. Go on a run. Let her friggin' cook. Free Cece. Free her. Let her cook on the floor. Let her cook. I really feel you guys, not you, that the ones that are astute, that chime in with good comments and engagement and bring something to the table, you're knowledgeable. I believe a lot of the masses, though, are the trolls out there, and I don't care. I had 130 something. I got to respond to a lot of you guys, and I'm going to take the time to do it. I'm going to take the time to do it. But, let's also keep it in perspective. Portland, the Sparks, the Aces, without Wilson and Mercury, they're winnable games, man. Without her, they're winnable games. Come on. So you got to be fair. You got depth, and that's a good thing. But it doesn't lessen her. It doesn't mean she's a bad player. She stinks. But that's what they'll push when you flip on the TV. Well, how about this? They seem to be better offensively without her. Let her keep resting. Stick her on the shelf. They're much better. Stop. Don't allow that to creep in the subconscious. Don't. Be better. Seriously. Be better. Very angry at the Fever. They don't know how to handle a world champion. Stephanie White makes me sick. She's not going anywhere, Evelyn. Because the GM's not going to allow it. And I told you, unless, again, there is someone that really sits there, bang, 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 bang. It's not happening. I tried it, Michael. And I got to say, my voice, Hispania's playing at 3. Margaret, she doesn't want to count sheep. She wants to hang out in the chats, and we love it. So as I started, and again, if you guys are just tuning in, kind of reset the table. On Q on a Friday, Rich Quinones here. We talked about the media's plot. Okay? The media's plot, the narrative that's being forced among a lot of hoops fans. And that's where you get the divide. So when you come on and you start to spew X, Y, and Z, and look, I said at times she turns the ball over, right? I mean, what point guard doesn't? But I'm also not gonna turn around and tell you that she's not a hell of a player, because great guards have off nights. Great guards miss shots. Great guards have turnovers. But the accolades, the records, they're all there. You can't take that away. The worst thing I've ever heard someone say when I was on the radio, we had a Hall of Fame head coach on. And I'll never forget, they referred to the coach as a former you're not a former you are a Super Bowl winning head coach, jackass. You're not former anything. You can't take that away. It's not, you are still, no matter what, this is where you hang your hat. But when you listen to a guy like Dennis on ESPN talk about, I can make an argument, he didn't. He didn't make an argument. When you talk about Congress sending a letter to the WNBA, and all of a sudden it takes a pivot to, hey, they're really trying to protect and back Caitlin Clark because there's an injustice going on within the league, the officiating, the organization, toxic, it's horrible, it's sabotage. And then the conversation switches to, oh, let's pivot to depth threats. Oh, by the way, we don't even know if they're public or not. And I hate to think someone's making that up, because that's a serious charge. But we also want to dismiss stalking, harassment of said players like a Cunningham, like a Caitlin Clark. I go on these chats, man, because I'm curious to see what these people are saying. It makes you sick. I mean, even, the ones when, they hammer a foul on her. I get it. People love her. They're fanatical fans. I'm trying to understand both sides and try to be fair and objective as possible, but I can't be fair and objective when it comes to what I'm seeing from the mainstream media, because they're not being fair and objective, and they need to get called out. Stop putting them on TV. Stop. The problem is, it is for clicks, it is for ratings, it is for eyeballs. It gets us talking about it. All I can say is, a network like ESPN that used to be sports, you used to go home, shoot some hoops, play with your buddies, little touch football, whatever it is, man, play football, whatever, kick the soccer ball around, you watch maybe a little Scholastic Sports America and Chris Fowler, you get there and you squeeze a little homework, then you watch SportsCenter, you watch the highlights, you loved it. It was sports. X's and O's. Now everything is crammed down our throat. Black, white, straight, gay, right, left, right, social injustice or not. It took away. Like, you've sucked the life out of the viewing experience. You've ruined it. You've ruined it because of this Civil War narrative. Right? Let's get into the historic rise of Caitlin Clark. Let's not celebrate it. Let's instead dive into the friggin' tension with petty, jealous, insecure haters who are former players and current players. Let's get into the friction she has that's depicted on the networks because of her blow up or her emotionally charged disagreement or passion on the sidelines or the bench directed at the head coach and vice versa. Let's create it. The networks want to push to foster and create more drama to just drive shit ratings, and it's harmful. And that's where I started the show with. Don't buy into it. Don't get sucked in. Watch for yourself. Come up with your own educated opinion, thought. Don't be sheep. Don't be sheep. Seriously, don't be sheep. What is it? Oh, Noblest Snake. I like that one. Fans, haters don't realize Fever winning without CC means the team chances to make the playoffs get higher when CC can literally dispel many narratives in playoffs. I like that. Let's talk about that for a second, because it's all about depth, right? We talk about the bench. You love production on the bench, do you not? It's a great point you bring up. And if they make the playoffs and she flat out balls out, she's going to shut up a lot of people. Well, you know what? Let me push the goalpost back, my friend. She's not, because there's still going to be haters. Now, here's the flip side of that coin. The flip side of that coin is, if she goes out and she struggles, then what's going to happen? Told you so. I mean, that's the one thing you love and hate about what we do, and you love and hate about sports. We're so reactionary. It's all about recency bias. Recency bias is the worst thing in sports. We see a quarterback on week 1 go 20 of 28, 288, 3 touchdowns. He's an all-pro. The next week he gets sacked 6 times, have 3 turnovers, 2 pick 6, and he sucks and he has to get benched. Recency bias. How many times do you watch when a trade is done and not even 10 seconds to friggin' trade, the ink isn't dry, and what do you see? Who won the trade? Let's grade the trade. We're so reactionary. We are so reactionary. It's unbelievable. And I get it. Monday morning quarterbacking. That's what we do. Monday morning quarterbacking. I do it all the time. We talk about the games on Monday. It's an instant reaction. And then I come back down to earth, have a little fresh roasted coffee, walk the pup, go to the beach, go for a run, get a little sun, and I'm good. Wednesday, we start to get over the hump, and then we preview the upcoming games. Good luck to your Spain squad today, Q. Oh, man. I got to reserve my voice, Michael. It's going to be a tough one. I think the Spaniards beat the Waffles. I don't even know where my Belgium correspondent is, by the way, who was chiming in when we were talking World Cup and the debacle that is the United States men's national team. Tough situation. It is a tough situation. It's like, it's a no-win, can't-win situation. Because you can still, I'll give you the perfect, I think, the comp to it, but not on the same level, but just kind of follow me for a second. And I know some of you guys hate when I say that. I'm sorry. Going back to the NFL. The knock on Sam Darnold for years was, this guy's a turnover machine. He's going to throw the ill-advised pick. He can't win the big game. He spits the bit. He spits the bit. He's not a pressure player. He never has been. He faded with the Jets. He bounced around. Carolina, San Francisco, Minnesota. You have an opportunity. Clinch. Home field. Last weekend of the season, Detroit, you spit the bit. You don't crack 200 yards. You throw a couple picks. Last year, it's going to be the same slinging Sammy Darnold. If you listen to me talk NFL, I'm a big Darnold fan. I like slinging Sammy Darnold. He's got a little gumption. He's got some guts. So he has the season he has. He wins the Super Bowl, but yet the narrative hasn't changed. Well, he only ran it because, the defense. And they played a second-year quarterback. And, everyone knew they were going to be overmatched, New England. And, yeah, Darnold's a nice quarterback, but I'm not going to stick him in that top 10 to 15. The dude just won a friggin' Super Bowl. He put up ridiculous numbers. And yet, you just can't get anyone to pivot. You can't. When people are set, when they have their opinion made up, they have their opinion made up. And those are, like, I've gotten to the point, not only with sports talk, and I'm sure a lot of you are probably in the same portion of your life. If you want to argue with me that 2 plus 2 is 5, have at it. Okay, you win. There are some people, there are some fans, there are some talking heads that, for whatever the reason is, and I think we've kind of nailed and hit those reasons, will never give Caitlin Clark her just due. Will never give her her flowers. They do that with other athletes. They just, for some reason, I don't know if it's a built-in insecurity. I don't know if it's just, they're prejudiced against, they're biased for others, they're biased against, they just hate, they don't like the way the person looks, where they're from, how they were raised, their religious beliefs, their sexual orientation, the color of their skin. They just, for some reason, can't appreciate the player, the athlete, for what they do on the field. As long as you're not doing anything outside where you're harming someone, like we see too much of, or you're acting a fool, focus on the skill, the talent. But you can't tell me in one breath, if you're the media, if you're ESPN, well, you know what? Or if you're some of these other talking heads, she needs to speak up. No. What I said yesterday was, speak up, defend yourself. You don't need to speak up for others. But she's been doing that. She has clearly and consistently has come out and said, don't condone this. Don't condone the hate. Don't condone the violence. It's part of the game, fouls, but it's got to be cleaned up. But I want to sit there and say, she's got, speak out on what? On what? On what? Politics? Elite class status? The economy? Racial injustice? Why? Why? Because if she doesn't, what does that mean? She wants to avoid the topic? I think she's gone through enough. And I think the media has done a fantastic job of just absolutely piling on her and just driving that knife through her heart. Because there's a couple that will defend her. There were a couple that will come out and say, whoa. I mean, come on. If this is any other player, of her stature and her talent and what she's brought to the game, and you leave her off the 30th year commemorative poster, it's an injustice. It's outrageous. It's an uproar. For all the talking heads that talk about friggin' list and her face is not on it, come on. It tells you everything you need to know. Like, she's got to have some serious thick skin, man. She really does. She is built a different way, and I admire it. I do. And someone can, some of you guys can sit back there, because I know your line of thinking and I know where you're coming from, and it's really not a genuine spot. It isn't. And the more you comment, the more you just expose yourself. So I let you hang yourself out to dry. But few can deal with this burden. Few can deal with this. A lot of people don't know how to handle the spotlight. But my concern right now is it's starting to weigh on her. It's starting to weigh on her every time you turn around. It's something new. And you got to start to wonder the mental state. Because what happens is when you start to get frustrated and you start to, you're not thinking clearly. You're not. We've all been there, right? You have a frustrated day. You get up early. If you have kids, the baby's crying, you got to go to work, you're working 2 jobs, the wife is, no lovey-dovey on a Friday night, too tired, whatever the hell's going on in your life, right? You want a little hot toddy, you want to unwind, you want to relax, you want to watch the game, you're a little tense, everything, you got a boiling point, right? Everything comes, and I'm sorry, I'm just very honest and raw, a little boiling point. And you just feel like it's pressure, right? Pressure. And eventually you're going to snap, you're going to break. And I think that's where we're headed. And again, it would just be nice, right? It would be nice if you get some of these talking heads that really have the platform, that can really make the difference. I do what I do. I do it, every day, pretty much, sometimes twice a day. I do it on the radio. I do it on SR 2109 FM The Game, Odyssey Family, Odyssey Radio. I try to give you a different viewpoint, a different opinion, and I try to back the opinion, but I don't like to cram things down people's throat. Like a couple guys commented in, and they're saying, the other day you were like, you have to pick a side. What I was saying was, you have to pick a side. If you're Caitlin Clark, you got to decide this. Pick a side. Do I want to continue down this path? Am I going to be submissive and just let them keep shitting on me? Or am I going to open my mouth and speak up for myself? Not speak out, speak up for myself. Like what side? And I also believe there are some things in life that, yeah, you do. Now we can have a conversation, are you this, are you that, are you this way, that way? But there are certain, like, I don't advocate, you shouldn't be racist towards someone. You shouldn't be prejudiced. Nobody likes that. We've all dealt with that. I can tell you horror stories when I was starting off in my career in radio and the stops I've had. You wouldn't believe some of the hate mail, the emails that I used to get, the phone calls, people trying to call in a radio show and try to sabotage what I'm trying to do on the air. Never let it bother me. Because my father said, have thick skin. This is what you chose to do. Be above it. Be above it. So I never advocate for any of that kind of stuff. No one should be going on social media, but they do it because they're keyboard warriors, because they're never checked. Imagine those that are on social media that press the button, that are tough guys. They're not doing that shit in real life. They're just not. They're not going up to some stranger in a bar and mouthing off. They will get their jaw cracked. And again, I don't advocate for violence, but sometimes some people do need to get cracked in the jaw. But there are certain things, like I said, you know what I mean, right? The domestic violence. That I don't tolerate any of that. Coming on the thread, I've seen this because I've done this long enough on the channel where I'll get people that comment, and man, some of the stuff, I want to give you that free reign. I do. I want to give you a little bit of rope, but sometimes you got to let someone hang themselves with it. Like, you expose yourself who you really are. And what these networks are doing, they are coming off, and let's just call it what it is. I think there's an element of prejudice against Caitlin Clark. And I think there's too much bias for and protection of the head coach and the said organization and the league as a whole. See, when you're broadcasting these games on a network, you're never really going to piss in the wind. You're not going to do that. You're not going to bite that hand that feeds you. It's very rare you see someone who's on a network call out said network, because they don't know if the check's going to clear the 15th. They just don't. What does the GM get out of stalling a star player? What is the agenda? Does the GM not have a voice either? The GM's like 90-something years old. I'm sorry, the owner's 90-something years old. The GM's got a voice. The GM has a voice. She just chooses not to say anything. I mean, Amanda Cox, that's your GM. She just... Folks, I honestly... sometimes we talk about the good old boys network in the NFL. Well, you're kind of seeing it in the WNBA. You got to get along to go along. You got to get along to go along. And again, they brought in, they looked at Stephanie White, and they believed that she can be the difference maker, right? She can be the difference maker. Because of what? She was a former player. She was a former assistant coach. She was a former head coach. And she returned to the franchise, right? She was a former Indiana Fever player. So there's equity built. It's like, hey, man, my uncle got me the job. My uncle's not going to fire me. I'm his nephew. Like, oh, you want a job. Nowadays, you got to go through all the crap and you got to go online. Back in the day, what did we do? It's a lot easier to get a job when you hand the resume in to your buddy and your buddy walks in the door and he vouches for you. It's a different animal now. Well, she's already got that built up equity, the body of work, the resume. Whether we question the body of work and the resume, it's still there. Like, I'm not going to come on the air and say, well, you can't dismiss what Caitlin Clark has done. Well, you certainly, you look at Stephanie White and you look at her background, and she's won. Now, she's won as a player. She won at Purdue. She's had success, but she was never really good at Vanderbilt. That was a debacle. We know that. And right now, her coaching style, for those that are backing and pro Caitlin Clark, they see it doesn't mesh. They see it doesn't mesh. That's all. So, like, it is what it is. It says you keep repeating yourself over and over, get over. There's really not much to get over. I mean, today we're talking about the media and the narrative. I mean, you can pop on any channel you want on YouTube, and there's about 1,000 different shows talking about the WNBA, Caitlin Clark. I'm talking about the media's agenda, perception, their narrative, and how they're pushing it. Obviously, it resonates because you're commenting. Right? Seriously. You're commenting about it. And that's okay. You don't have to like the style, and you don't have to like the show. I don't take offense to it. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're fine here. The media's got to figure out a way to do a better job. They have to figure out a better way of, again, the narrative. Be fair about it. Be fair about it. Because I can tell you right now, if it's another player, it's a totally different topic of conversation. Totally different topic of conversation. But going back to your White question, they're not gonna. They're not gonna. ST chimes in Q, really loving the show and appreciate it. All these Stephanie White apologists, there are fans who are increasingly disappointed and they want nothing better to do than have her fired. Keep doing your thing, Q. And I am. Trust me, I never allow, ever. I'm going to keep doing my thing. You don't have to worry about that. Kerry chimes in, not a fan of White, but I'm going to continue to watch CC play. Not going to stop being a fan because our coach does stupid things. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, too, because what does happen if they do decide as an organization to trade her? The backlash, or will Fever fans come out and say, good, thank God, I'll still follow her? See, that's the other thing. That's, she resonates. If she were to go in the parking lot, 3-on-3, 5v5, go over, see, you're going to follow. You're going to follow. And I believe she's got that star power, and she has the panache that she can bring over players. I really believe that. Cute thing about this, how about the crazy minute restrictions last night? They only exist for certain players, huh? That's the coach. Nobody likes the truth. They don't. Nobody likes to get called out. Nobody does. But sometimes you got to call people out. And if you're going to sit there and tell me you can make a case and an argument that she's top 10, top 11, not one of the top 5 guards in the league, like, that's something, that's a different conversation. But don't tell me she's, 11th best player? I mean, come on. That's ludicrous. That's an agenda. That's a contrarian. 11th best guard in the league is just, it's asinine. You're a hater. That's all. You're a hater. You can't appreciate it because you don't like her game, her style, her look. Let's just call for what it is. I get it. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. You need a hug. You need a hug. And that's okay. You do the same thing in the NBA. You do the same thing in the NFL. You do the same thing in baseball. We know. I mean, she's only the second player, I think, in the NBA, WNBA. She's second in the league in assists. She's third or fourth in points. And last year she was ranked 9th, and this year she dropped to 11. I mean, there's a part of me that just wants. I would love for someone to just give Stephanie White truth serum, or just maybe like clone her to a smart version of herself, and I don't know if that exists, and just let Caitlin Clark go off and score 25, 35, and the Fever win it, and she wins MVP, because then I can come on the air and I can blast all you friggin' trolls. I can blast you guys to kingdom come. I'll talk about it every day for 20 years. I will just constantly blast the haters out there because you can't take it. You don't like it when you're wrong, and you don't like it when someone goes against the grain and has a thought. I mean, come on. Paige averaging 20 and 6. Olivia's averaging 16 and 6. Caitlin's averaging 20 and 6. Paige has 2 less turnovers a game. Caitlin has 2 more assists. Talk about efficiency. They can all these players can be good, by the way. Great. But I started to show off the same thing. I'm going to close it out. I started this off talking about the media's job, the national media, the mainstream media. You can't go on the air when you're the rat ship and you have all these eyeballs in a microphone and you spew the nonsense. Start taking shots at the coach. Start calling her out. What is the real reason she gets a pass? And nobody has an answer. No one's been able to give me that answer. Nobody. She gets a free pass. It's like a free reign. It's like, hey, man, take the first swing. She gets a pass. And I told you why I think she gets a pass. I really do. Because A, her relationship. Oh, by the way, I said this yesterday for those that are just tuning in for the first time. She worked for the network. Okay? So they're not going to call her out. So I'm not going to take you serious. So she played, she won, and she was an analyst and a color commentator for ESPN. And, oh, by the way, she's in a relationship with Lisa Salters, which I don't care about, but she works at ESPN. It's just ridiculous. They wouldn't touch Deanna Rossini and all the crap and the nonsense she was doing, and they're certainly not going to get on Stephanie White. Is she the major problem? No. Is she part of the problem? Yes. Is she a big-time problem? Yes. Yeah. If you're breaking it down percentage-wise, yeah. I would say 80-85% because she was brought in because of her defensive prowess as a head coach, and this team sucks defensively. But also, she's playing favorites. And what happens is that totally disrupts the flow of the offense. And she's manipulating the stats of one Caitlin Clark. And she's sabotaging her growth as a player going forward. And she just stinks as a head coach. She stinks as a head coach. She's so quick to challenge 50-50 crap for other players, role players, bench players. But when it happens to Caitlin Clark, she turns a blind eye. That's favoritism. It's like, hey, I'm creating this hostile work environment. It's toxic. Who wants to play for that? But no one seems to want to call her out. Why? Because she won at Purdue? Because she coached before? Because she's an analyst or was an analyst? And she did color for ESPN? Come on, man. Bunch of friggin' clowns. Gutless. Gutless. That's what you are. You're gutless. It's a gutless network. Always has been. Used to be a great network, turned gutless. So afraid to go against the norm. So afraid to come out and have an opinion. A fear of the backlash. I mean, you know, you love when you start to get the ESPN, the rat ship on rat ship crime, because all these talking heads, these insiders get pissed off when someone tweets something first. They're more concerned about that. How about being concerned about some real subjective, objective loyalty when it comes to journalism and covering the sports and being fair? But not anymore, because it always goes back to certain things. You can start on this topic, X's and O's, and then for some reason it turns into what? Social injustice. Entitled. Hand up, hand out. She never had to work for it. That player's a punk. Oh, he's a thug. Oh, that guy's got everything handed to him. He's a... No one is saying keep breaking down or stop breaking down the X's and O's. But what I'm saying is if you're going to touch certain subjects when it comes to other head coaches, and you have former head coaches not Super Bowl winning head coaches, but former head coaches and or players who, again, have a mic in front of them and sprout whatever the frig they want with no, repercussions whatsoever, then why can't you do it with this individual? Why can't you expose this individual? It's a What the Frig Friday. We open that new segment, Fraud Friday. She's a fraud. Expose her. Don't placate. Don't protect. Don't raise an eyebrow. Well, the minutes restriction, maybe we'll get... No. Talk about the real issue. Is it taboo to say the word sabotage? Is it taboo to sit there and say, yeah, you know what I really think? She's screwing her over. Got to take a quick time out. We'll be back. Here's a commercial. Here's Disney World commercial. What's so wrong with just speaking the truth? That's all. What's so wrong about really having a strong take and opinion and not being in fear of the backlash? Because what happens is you got others who will sit there and say what they say or said what they said, and there's zero pushback. When you have an asinine comment that the guy, and I already forgot his name because he's not relevant, talking about 11th best or this, that, the other thing, there's going to be blowback and pushback because he's not backing it up with anything of substance. He's not. That is a major, major, major problem. And then what happens? You get the CC fatigue. You get the fatigue of it. I didn't want to come on and talk about a game last night. I wanted to talk. I came on because I knew what I wanted to talk about. I had an idea. You guys, basically, because of the comments yesterday and the engagement, you got me thinking. We're so fixated on X, Y, and Z. I wanted to bring up A, B, and C. Another side of it, another angle. And whether, again, for some people, it's too deep of a conversation or not, that's not on me. That's on you. If you don't want to get involved with it, that's okay. That's okay. No harm, no foul, man. No harm, no foul. But these outlets are dangerous. You listen to CNN, you think all of a sudden you got the Antichrist in office. You listen to Fox, and all of a sudden you got Jesus Christ reincarnated in office. I mean, it's the way of the world. But you're allowed to push back. You're allowed to ask questions. You don't have to kiss ass and placate your friggin' entire life. You don't. Because to me, that tells me you're soft. You're narrow-minded. You are so afraid to think outside the box. And when you make a comment, you don't want to be called out. You don't want to be called out. Or show me some proof. Show me some proof. Look, the physicality of the game, they bang her around on purpose because more times than not, they know they can get away with it. So any player starts to get frustrated, then they press, then they have poor shot selection, then they might have some turnovers. I'm not excusing it, but it all goes hand in hand. You watch any level of basketball. How many times did you watch the NBA in the finals and the run that Jalen Brunson was on? Every time San Antonio tried the BS tactic, the foul, the physicality, Wemby, the elbows, not allowing Brunson to land properly, not giving him the space for the landing zone. Brunson, all he did was get pissed off, and they banged him even more, and he started to get frustrated. Then he had a couple turnovers. Then he played within himself, and he ripped their hearts out. So all these players in this league is doing is trying to break down the player's spirit, and they're also poking the bear. They're poking the bear. Like, I want a pissed off Clark on the floor for 28 minutes. I'm telling you right now. I want to see, give her free reign. Talk about the spacing, talk about the lineups, talk about the rotation, talk about the other players on the floor who, again, she can make them even better when she's facilitating because we know they have talent on that roster. Let her cook. And if you're not going to do it here, trade her, let her go and do it somewhere else. And I don't even know if a change of scenery, the way she's viewed now in this league, if that's going to help her career. But don't tell me for 1 minute you're looking well, you're feeling well, but you're holding her out. You know what that is? They're holding and keeping her hostage. She's a prisoner. She's a prisoner. That's what that is. That's what that is. So Boston is in tonight. Cunningham is in as long as she continues to work well and feel well. Caitlin Clark basically said, I didn't need to come out. I'm ready to go. And now it's rest, not her back. That is the definition of effing me around. That is the definition of sabotage. You can't slice it and dice it any other way. You can't tell me different. That falls on the head coach. And the network should be talking about that today. And they're not. They're not. They're ignoring it. That's exactly what they're doing. They're ignoring it because it doesn't fit their agenda. It doesn't fit their narrative. We don't want to piss off someone who's in a relationship with her. We don't want to piss off someone that had a cup of coffee in Bristol calling games. We don't piss off someone that was doing, play-by-play for us. Come on, man. Grow some balls. Grow some stones. Will you? Grow some stones. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. It is. If this is any other coach in any other sport, his ass would have been fired. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If this is any other sport, any other team, any other franchise with this crap, imagine dicking around a Curry. Imagine dicking around a Wemby. Imagine dicking around an SGA or a Brunson like this. Your ass would have been gone. But not her. Nope, Teflon. Teflon Steph. Not Teflon Don, Teflon Steph. Should have been fired a long time ago. But like I said, they're not going to do it. So there's the rub. The media now come out and start growing. And there are some good reporters and journalists that cover the league, and they do ask hard questions. They do, and I give them credit. They're not afraid. There's not this, I'm afraid to lose my credential. To retaliate. No, man, that's your job as a journalist. You're supposed to ask the hard questions. You are supposed to ask the questions you believe and feel your reading audience, your listening audience would want to know. They want the answers to. They want insight. The worst thing ever is, I remember this, doing post-game interviews. I learned my lesson pretty early. Like, you never ask someone after, how do you feel? How the freak do you think I feel? I got rid of that question when I was in my 20s. You never ask it again. Because what are they going to say? It feels shitty to win? Like, no. Right? Oh, man. Some of these guys should not be on TV. And girls, for that matter. They should, some of them should just not keep a microphone away from them, please. Because it just, I don't know what the line of thinking is at times. I don't. I have absolutely no idea what goes through people's mind, man. Like, some people, maybe they just say it to say it. Is that a possibility? They just say it to say it? They're like, you know what? I'm just, today I'm going to wake up and this is exactly what I'm going to do. This is the route I'm going to do. I just feel for some reason I'm going to say something so outlandish to get a rise out of people. I've done my job for the day, and there's no recourse. There's no ramifications. There's no repercussions. I'm just going to talk out of my ass. Why? Because I can get away with it. Not anymore. Nope. No. We're finding the truth. We seek the truth. That's what we do. 12:30 on the East Coast, a Friday edition on Q. Rich Quinones here. Get social with me. If you like the content, subscribe. If you don't like the content, subscribe anyway. At Rich Q on Q, the YouTube channel. Got a lot of comments rolling in. These are, by the way, these are some comments. Oh, the trolls came out in force. The trolls came out in force. Hoops Guru chimes in. Q, stop kissing ass. All right. We like that one. Adman chimes back in. Repeat, rinse. Okay, there we go. RAJVA. Maybe Jordan will get in on that. Oh, that was speaking of the other league, right? The league that we talked about being formulated. Jerusalem 2396. Clearly, this is attempted murder using closed fist to choke CC22. Kneeling the pelvic part with full body is intentional harm. Okay. Lauren chimes in, flush the WNBA for a new league. I'm glad someone says what's needed. Say a long time ago, what most of the fans knew about the corporate smelly fish heads. Everyone has an opinion. That's what makes everything beautiful, right? Everyone's got an opinion. Look, the best thing, I cannot wait. I hope I can turn on the TV. I hope I can turn on the tube. I hope I can see something trending on X where someone really does take that shot and really has the balls and the stones to call out the head coach. And as I said, not about the X's and O's. It's not always X's and O's. There's an element of coaching. The coach star player, the relationship, the dynamic. You don't need to like each other, but you have to respect each other. There is a lack of respect right now. There is it's an utter lack of respect, a disdain, a disregard for Caitlin Clark. And if you can't see it, I can't make you see it. If you don't realize this head coach is just going out of her way to manipulate the player, okay? To manipulate the player, to not allow the player to fully flourish. It's like old school where the politics of high school sports, the coach doesn't like you, you're not going to start. So you can sit there and say, I repeat. Well, so do the haters. The problem I had with the whole Thompson thing was that the league didn't say shit for a day. That is a problem. Does anyone else not see that? That is a problem. You quietly then decide to give her a 1-game suspension. Why? Because of all the backlash. That's all. So then Caitlin Clark doesn't say anything. She just goes about her business, and then she gets backlash because she didn't speak up or speak out to make it worse. I'm telling you, man, there are times, yes, you have to take the high road in life. There are times where you have a little bit of discretion and decorum, and there's also a time to speak up for yourself. Right now, if she continues to get kicked around by this head coach in this organization, she's got to have that, adult to adult conversation and just find out what the hell's going on and really, press them, push them. Look, if you don't think I'm a fit going forward, do me a solid, trade me. It's better for the organization. It's better for me. It's going to hurt the fan base, but it's your decision. You need to live with it. Get value for me right now. So I don't want to hear this crap taking the high road. She shouldn't stay silent with certain things. Nobody's talking to her about political beliefs or social beliefs or all these injustices. We're talking about what's going on with this player on the floor and off the floor, and how the narrative and the media have just totally misconstrued everything, and they basically cram this crap and this prejudice and bias against her down everyone's throat. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. She has been done dirty. She has been done dirty. It's one side. No. I'm giving you both sides, and I'm giving you the fair side. I'm giving you the honest side of what the hell's going on. And I laid it out for you. Whether you agree or not, that's on you. I can lead you to the water. I can't force you to drink it. That's not my shtick. That's not what I'm trying to do. But don't for 1 minute tell me right now this head coach isn't culpable. Don't for 1 minute tell me that these networks are so afraid to go after this coach because of what? Her body of work? Her experience? Behind the microphone, in front of the TV, behind the TV, calling games for the network. They're afraid to take a shot at her. That is a cowardly way out by ESPN. And you would expect them to do better, but it's not who they are. Hence the rat ship. A bunch of rats. That's all they are. They scurry. They scurry. Then you got the mother rat that sits there dangling those strings like a puppet, throws out one little cheese, and all of a sudden you get the eyeballs. You got what you wanted. You got people talking about it. You got exactly what you wanted. Congratulations. Good job, ESPN. Bunch of rats. All right, we're going to start wrapping it up. I got a lot of comments. I promise I will get to all your comments. If you guys are first time, if you like the content, if you don't like the content, if you at least thought it was engaging, you can do me a solid. You can subscribe to the channel. You guys are fantastic. You guys roll with me for 2 hours. It's incredible. You guys roll with me for 2 hours, an hour plus, an hour and a half. Last night, we dropped a new edition of On Cue NFL wise. We talked about the NFC South and the NFC East, gave you a little prediction in that. So check that out. That's on demand. Give me a follow at RichQ on Q on X, at RichQ on IG, at RichQ on the mic on TikTok. We'll put out the shorts. We'll put out the comments. I need you guys to engage. Keep the comments coming. I see right now, the analytics wise, I got 176 comments to answer to. And guess what? I'm going to walk the dog, have a little lunch, get my fresh roasted coffee, get settled in before Spain and Belgium. Sorry, we didn't have the Belgium correspondent today, so we don't know what's going to happen with the waffles. But I'm going to answer all the comments. I am. We're going to fire off if we don't have to travel for broadcast tomorrow on a Saturday. But like I said, you can catch me during the week. Also, SR 1029 FM The Game. That's based out of Tampa, part of the Odyssey family. Show's always on X, Kicks, Millions, Rumble, and right here on my YouTube channel. If you like the content, if you like to engage with me, if you like what I'm spewing, if you don't think it's nonsense and you're enjoying it, the best you can do is subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and keep engaging me. Please, keep engaging me because I love it. We don't have to agree. We do not have to agree. We can agree to disagree. But the reason I do this, it is an open forum. And that's where I think my show is a little more unique. I want to read off these comments. We want to go back and forth. We were having fun with it. And we want to be entertaining and engaging. And you guys give me something to think about. And I hope I give you something to think about as well. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It's sports talk. It's sports. It should be heated. It should be passionate. It should be fun. It should be entertaining and engaging. But as I close out, where I started the show is, I think we're at this point, especially us in the media, content creators, sports talk show hosts, journalists, reporters, you got to be fair with certain things. And you got to be balanced with certain things. And you can have an agenda, but that's also skewing your integrity. You can be a fan, but you also have to call it the way you see it. And I think the issue that we've seen over the years is everything now, it's throw it in your face, knee-jerk reaction, instant reaction, get the eyeballs, and right away. Like I said, by those that comment and have been tuning in over 700 watch hours, I think it was 823 in 2 days. This is resonating with you. That's why I want to keep talking about it with you. Because sometimes you bring up certain points that I didn't think about. You have different opinions that I wasn't even thinking about. And it's engaging and it's compelling. So ultimately, you would wish that some of these other members of the media started to really do their job. You know, you're never going to see, I'm not going to sit here and post a show that says Stephanie White fired and she's not fired. That's clickbait. That's not what we're looking to do. We want to grow organically. And that's what I do on the radio. And I've been doing it for years. And I have a good following. And you guys keep following me wherever I go. I greatly appreciate it. 100%. If you like your coffee like I do, don't forget fresh roasted coffee, 20%. That's in the show notes on Q20, BYP20. But I appreciate it greatly because, you know, it's a small little voice. And I believe when I come on the air, we're trying to speak the truth. Maybe I have a certain rough around the edges way of getting that across, but we want to speak the truth. And I think the treatment of her, especially by the mainstream, especially of a network like ESPN, that's refusing to hit on the real subject at hand, okay, the belly of the beast, the head coach, they are doing a disservice. They're really not reporting the whole story. So the plot, the narrative, it gets lost. It gets lost. And if they're afraid to go after her because she was an analyst and she did color for ESPN, she called NBA games and she called WNBA games and she worked across the platforms and ESPN and the ABC network, and she's in a relationship with one of the contemporaries, a well-respected reporter in Lisa Salters at ESPN. If they're afraid to be critical of her, that's the coward's way out. That is a coward's way out. That's no balls, no stones. Seriously, none. Which means you're doing a disservice to the viewing listening audience, and you're also doing a disservice to the Players League and certainly Caitlin Clark. because you're not reporting it fairly. You're not reporting it fairly. All right, start wrapping up. We're on demand. Appreciate you guys on a Friday. You hung with me for 2 hours. I only had 2 cups of coffee. Look at that. We're getting better. You guys are fantastic. Keep the comments coming. I promise I will follow up with all you. We're going to be right back here tomorrow. I think we're going to go a little NBA route, maybe talk LeBron. You got that nonsense going on with Kawhi Leonard and the trade and the NBA, the investigation. So we'll dive into that a little bit as well. Let me know on social, what you've been thinking about the show, the content, the channel, at RichQ on Q, X, IG, and of course, TikTok, RichQ on the mic. Like, comment, subscribe, share, comment. And like I said, do better, networks. Do better. Because if you do better, then guess what? I won't have to come on the air and basically blast you. I won't have to do that. Reese from Philly, my man, the Red Dragon. Have a good one, brother. Be safe, be sound. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday. If you're going to watch the World Cup, do me a little favor, a little good juju to España. I greatly appreciate it. As always, this is a Friday edition of On Q. I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.